areas in Lions Park. The announcement was made at the Board of Aldermen meeting on Monday, June 7th. City residents can now reserve shelters in 3-hour blocks for $100. The fee for non-residents is $150. The park board also set the fee schedule for cabanas around the splash pad as well as the band shell. Residents can reserve a cabana or the band shell for $50 for a 3-hour block. The non-resident fee is $75. The shelters, cabanas, and band shell do not need to be reserved to use those facilities. However, a party with a reservation will have priority to use the space. The Parks and Recreation Department is now taking reservations for shelters, cabanas, and the band shell at 816-903-4724 or 816-903-4730. This 102.7 FM news update is sponsored by First Missouri Bank, serving the growth and financial needs of our customers, member FDIC. Get your hometown news delivered to your email. Subscribe at 1027carneymo.com. From the KPGZ Newsroom, this is Brian Watts. Have a great day.
Your hometown radio station is 102.7 KPGZ, Kearney, Missouri.
Without the support of community underwriters, we wouldn't be here. So a huge thanks to these particular businesses for supporting KPGZ.
Kearney Trust Company is Kearney's hometown bank. They began operations in 1882 and have been part of the community ever since. Kearney Trust Company offers banking services that make managing finances quick and easy. Online accounts, bill pay, e-statements, and mobile banking are available at Kearney Trust. The people of Kearney Trust work for the people of Kearney. They provide capital to people and businesses so they can achieve their goals. Kearney Trust Company is your partner for success, with 2 locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone number is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
Community, our hometown. This is Kearney Live on 102.7 FM, our hometown radio station. Kearney Live is presented by Kearney Trust, 310 West 92 Highway in Kearney, 816-628-6666. And now here's the hosts of Kearney Live, Mike Davis and Jim Dickerson.
That's right. Welcome to Kearney Live. My mic was on. Isn't that great? Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Brian Watts, the hardest, yes, indeed, the hardest working man in Kearney, Missouri, and perhaps the county, Clay County. Yeah, that's stretching it a little bit. You think? What do you say there, buddy?
Yeah, especially since we've got a Clay County guest.
I know. Let's go ahead and talk about it here because I am so happy to see Sheriff Will Akin with us today. Yes, welcome.
Thanks for having me again.
Listen. Right? We would have you here every day if you'd just show up. So I just, I mean, we're that kind of outfit here. Listen, I can't tell you, I'm so excited. I'm excited that Will Akin is here. But even more than that, I think for the first time in weeks, my friend and co-host of this show, Kearney Live, Jim Dickerson, is here. Right? We have a quorum. I mean, this is.
I wish everybody was that excited.
Good seeing you, Jim. Welcome back, man.
Oh, it's good to be back. Good to be seen.
Yes, all of the above are true. Where in the heck were you?
I don't know. Last week I was at the chamber lunch.
Remember
obviously.
that?
I saw you there.
I remember that time
for the State of the City address.
Yeah, that was fun.
The week before that, I was somewhere, and the week before that, I think I was here. I think.
I don't
remember.
I don't think so.
Cannot remember.
No, But yeah, what are you pointing at there, Jim? There's things going on behind the scenes here.
I'm having communications with Brian that do not concern you.
I know. We're going to get back to you, Will. But Sheriff, should I call you Sheriff? I don't know. It feels like we know you well enough to say, "Hey, Will."
Definitely, Will works perfectly fine with me.
I'm just telling you, you have been on this show a number of times, and you're a terrific guest. Just love seeing you here. And, it's funny, we talked before the show. I will get to you about official business, but right. I thought it was really funny that I mentioned to you that you used to be Captain Will Akin of the Clay County Sheriff's Office, and now you're the sheriff. And I said that the rank sheriff doesn't sound like it's as high a rank as captain. What's up with that?
I think, both positions equally have a large amount of responsibility, but as a captain, I was the director of emergency management for the entire county. And so whenever something would happen in any of our area, then I would have to respond. The responsibility changes because now I'm, for the lack of a better way of describing it, just the sheriff. So my responsibility is the sheriff's office. And equally, a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, I don't have to venture out whenever there's a disaster. But I will regardless because this is my community too, and I'll be there.
I like that. I don't have to venture out when there's a disaster. So you'll be at home. Ooh, that looks horrible. Anyway,
but I don't have to go out there.
What's on TV?
Well, the bottom line is you're happy in your position. Did you? What was the first day on the job when you were officially sheriff? What was that like when you got out of bed? You woke up and your eyes went boing, and were you just excited to get after?
It didn't hit me in the morning. So I was excited to go to work,
right.
New role, and I get to work, and then everything that I thought about just imploded.
Oh boy!
And the reason why it imploded is because I've been with the sheriff's office now for about 8.5 years, and I thought I had a really good grasp on things. And the former sheriff Paul Vescovo kept me in the loop in a lot of things. But on day one, I realized very quickly when I sat down in that chair that there was so much that I didn't know what was going on. And all of a sudden now I'm the one who has to deal with all of it instead of me going, "Hey, I heard something, Paul. What are you doing about this?" Now I don't have anyone because I'm the guy.
Sounds kind of like me around here. I think I have a full grasp of what's going on.
Yeah,
and then I walk back there in the back office.
Well, Jim, you could call Paul Vescovo and see if he could help you.
He probably wouldn't have any better idea.
I don't think he'd answer the phone.
I try calling you and you don't know.
I won't answer the phone. Oh, it's Jim.
But it's been a wild ride since. And, as I had mentioned earlier, it's awesome. It really is. And if I complained about anything, I would just be whining.
Well, feel free.
I do that a lot.
I was going to say a lot of that goes on in this very room. Just not so much on the air. But, we can do that too, though. But, Jim's got a couple of items, I think, before we get back to you. But, again, man, welcome to the show. Really great seeing you.
Yeah, thanks for having me back again.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things. First of all, I have to apologize to the sporting community of Kansas City because for those of you who I already did this once this morning, but I was going to do it again. The Royals were doing kind of well there for a while. They were winning again. It was starting to get fun to watch. So in my patriotism for the Royals, I put my Royals flag out. And ever since then, they've not won a game.
They tanked. And
not only did they tank, they look horrible.
Right.
So this morning, I removed the flag. So we'll see what happens tonight. I felt really bad about that. I'm going to take the blame. It's my fault. I think the guy the other day, right after I put the flag out or shortly thereafter, threw like 40 pitches before he gave up like 5 runs before he got one out. I'll take credit for that. Last night wasn't any better. Man. So we'll see what happens tonight. The other thing was Mayor Randy Pogue mentioned me in a city council meeting.
Oh, this is good. This is good.
And I'm going to say that Randy was correct. So they are doing the grand opening for Lions Park, the splash pad, on Friday the 18th. Is that right? 18th, 19th, 18th. It's at 9:30 a.m. Thank you, Brian. And so the thing is that Mayor Pogue would be under the big bucket with water, and he would get doused. And the original agreement was that if Randy wore a tux for this, I would pay for his dry cleaning. Now, I'm going to back up just a little bit. A suit will suffice. It doesn't have to be a tux.
Semi-formal drenching. Right.
I wanted him to have a tux with the ruffles and the blue ruffles and stuff. But apparently we checked with some places, and those are hard to come by these days. I don't know why.
Thrift store.
Exactly.
Right.
So there's a bonus. I'll tell you what. I'll do this right now. Yes, I am going to pay for Randy Pogue's dry cleaning if he wears a suit and he gets the first splash. I will make an additional donation to the Lions Park splash pad if he wears a tux with the ruffles.
Well,
the ruffles need to be purple.
Start shopping, Randy. Get out there.
To celebrate Kearney Pride.
I like the sound of this.
All right.
Reminds me of my senior prom a little bit. I had those ruffly things.
You know what? I'll make an additional donation.
I'm not getting involved in this.
Purple ruffles and white shoes.
Ooh, yeah, white belt too.
If he can throw a purple tux on, this is going to be great. I like it. So that's
a white
Friday.
Sport coat and a pink carnation.
That's
what?
That is going to be Friday the 19th. No, 18th. Is it the 18th? I can't see the calendar from here. Friday the 18th over at Lions Park. I'm looking forward to that.
I have a note here from Brian. It says, "Drop your little chair." This is drop your chair a little. Yeah, I didn't. I did drop my chair.
Maybe you should just slouch.
Just
slouch a little bit.
Yeah. How's this? I kind of do anyway. No, watch. Nailed it.
And you missed it.
I did, but it's rare. There's a trash can over here, and I usually hit that nothing but net. And this particular time, it did bounce off the rim, unfortunately. I am so pleased again to see. Is that good, Jim? Are you? Is there anything else?
That's all I've got. I'm going to try to help the Royals win. And
good luck
over
with
the
that.
Splash pad. The splash pad might be easier, but we're going to do that.
Listen, that's going to be fun. And in fact,
Friday.
I will mention 102.7 FM will be there for the grand opening at Lions Park for the splash pad, and we'll be shooting pictures, we'll be getting interviews, and maybe some live footage. I don't know, probably not. I don't know. Brian's shaking his head. He shrugged his shoulders. He just doesn't care. See, that's the way it is. You know, you get this guy, you get in a management position, and he's a good guy. He is the hardest working man in Kearney. I told you that. Sheriff Will Akin, here we are. We're back, and with you. And I just, this is.
I'm sorry, I forgot you were here.
It is. I know.
Hey, I'm enjoying the show with you guys.
You know,
it's kind of like Tombstone, the movie. I'm sorry, I forgot you were still here.
We sit in this room and behind these microphones in the most popular show in Kearney, and we don't have a clue what we're doing when the lights go on and the sound and the broadcast. We don't know what we're going to do. But I do know this: you were the man to be sheriff of Clay County. It just feels like that was a perfect fit. And now you're here. Did you aspire to this position? How did you think about this in terms of? Did you sort of imagine yourself as sheriff, or how did that happen? How did it unfold?
So yeah, I didn't aspire to be the sheriff, and it wasn't until about 3 years before the election where I started having those conversations with former Sheriff Paul Vescovo. But I did tailor my career to become a chief of police somewhere, and so it just felt natural to move over. But there are such huge differences between a police chief and a sheriff, and when I started having those conversations with Paul, it started dawning on me the amount of responsibility that a sheriff truly has in the county that they're sheriff of. And as I started thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? That's a tremendous amount of responsibility. I better go ask my wife, see what she thinks.
Yes. Smart man.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But, we're a great team. And, we talked about it. And it took about 6 months to finally get to a point where it was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to be 100% into this and start, really diving into it. But because I've been so engaged with the community, and when I say community, just like I had talked about before, Clay County is my community. Even though I live in Liberty, I have an affinity for all the municipalities, for the entire area of Clay County. It just felt natural at that point. Once I wrapped my head around the fact that I could potentially be the sheriff of Clay County, it would just be a smooth transition from the role of being a captain, the director of emergency management, to being the sheriff. And I feel like I made the right decision.
You mentioned that as sheriff, you are back in law enforcement versus the other position
Emergency
is
management, yeah.
emergency management. Thank you for helping me out on that. You saw that, didn't you? I was struggling, yeah. And yeah, you threw me a little lifeline there. I love that about you. But okay, help me understand that. I mean, they both seem to be, kind of grouped in law enforcement, if you ask me. But what do I know?
Right. So, emergency management has, and I'll try to keep the technical lingo down as much as possible.
Oh,
but it has,
good. I'm not very smart.
Right.
Yes.
No, it's kind of boring, except for people who really enjoy it. But there are 15 emergency support functions in emergency management, and I had to be familiar with all of those. Law enforcement is just one of those emergency support functions. And so as the director of emergency management, I had to have an understanding in application of how each of those emergency support functions work in the event there's ever a disaster, whether man-made or natural disaster. Now that I'm back in law enforcement,
right.
I've never left, but now I can focus on ESF 13, which is emergency support function for law enforcement specifically. Now, I still have emergency management within the sheriff's office, and the current director is Melissa Evans. You guys have met her in the past. Now that's her responsibility. So now I get to focus on just the law enforcement aspect, but it's not just law enforcement. I still, as the sheriff of Clay County, have to be situationally aware over everything that's happening. So it's not just law enforcement. I still have to know what's happening in the courts, what's happening with Clay County government, what's happening with our municipal partners. But it still feels really good to be back in just the sheriff's office.
Right. And I think you and I talked about this maybe at a chamber meeting, and you talked about the additional responsibility of being in charge of a number of deputies and people who come to you for HR type issues, right?
Absolutely.
And talk about that.
Yeah.
That's more than law enforcement.
It is. Being a cop is pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's challenging in today's
some
climate,
people, maybe. Yeah.
But being the sheriff involves much more than just being a cop. It's, and I'll just throw this out here, the human resources aspect. And I've had several people ask me, hey, what is like the most challenging part of being the sheriff of Clay County? And easily I can come out and say, well, it's managing approximately 240 different personalities.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. Think of your own family. The dynamic of what? Four? Five?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's can be chaotic.
Well,
right?
I tell you, the difference between being at the sheriff's office and it being at home is I actually win sometimes at the sheriff's office.
Yes. And how I understand that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And generally, we're the ones who are culpable and saying, yeah, I'm sorry. You were right, honey.
So many times.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
I think, as sheriff, when I hear the word, I can't help but it takes me back to the Old West. And talk about how the sheriff from back in the old days how did that evolve to where it is now? How did it start? How did it, take me through the history of what a sheriff does?
Oh, man, it goes way farther back than the Western days. Oddly enough, when I was working on my dissertation for my doctoral program.
Yes, doctor. That's indeed right.
Good way to slide that in there.
Oh, did you know?
By the way, when I was working on my theses for the...
Oh, man. Nice. Way to point it out, That was awesome. Showstopper.
I did learn that the position of sheriff actually goes back to the 900s in England. And so the Sharif, Sharif was actually a family member that was responsible for the entire family. And if family members were getting out of line, then the higher ups would go to that person and say, why are you allowing this to happen? And hold them responsible. So then it kind of transformed through the 1200s with the Magna Carta. And that's actually the first document that has the word sheriff in it. So we're talking, man,
a long time.
A long time.
You almost had to
1,000
do
years
math.
ago. Yeah, almost 1,000 years ago.
Don't start with the math.
Yeah,
'cause
no.
we're not good at it.
You'll embarrass us.
Yeah, but
There would be no
let's
math.
fast forward. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, and I didn't expect it to go that far back. But then when you mentioned it, I mean, talk about Robin Hood. Obviously, those you think about the
Sharif.
The
responsibility.
Sharif.
You know that's not real.
No, I didn't, Jim. I had no clue.
It's a
actually.
movie.
Yeah,
Well, actually, it
right.
was a cartoon original. Well, it was a book before that.
You're confused. I can tell.
But
Go ahead, Will.
So let's fast forward, okay? Because a lot has happened over that time frame. But more recently in the 1820s, when Sir Robert Peel came out with the pillars of what law enforcement is today, and then it's gone through several different reformations since then. The 1920s being the most significant because that's when law enforcement became a more professional law enforcement type agency, as opposed to, hey, Mike and I were friends. I'm going to give you a job as a police chief in this borough or wherever, and then how effective were we?
Yeah.
But the 1920s, that's when we started seeing police cars show of, hey, we're actually moving around, as opposed to, we know that the cop's at the local donut shop, and then it just transpired from there through the community policing area of the 1970s, and then Homeland Security and stuff like that.
so I'm going to throw this to Mike for a quick question, and then we got to go to break. Do you know? Because I know you know, so don't talk. Mrs. Riley, and only Mrs. Riley, do you know where the term cop came from?
I'm going to guess the copper buttons on the uniform.
No.
All right, well, that's a good guess.
Constable on patrol.
I like that.
So people who think that that's derogatory, you're kind of like, well, not really.
Not really.
If you know where the original came from, and that was back in the Peel days. Yeah. And for those of you that are blowing up my phone about asking about defunding the police and all that, we're going to get to it next. So calm down. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about defunding the police and all that sort of thing on Kearney Live. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Say thank you to these local underwriters who support KPGZ.
Simplify your banking, simplify your life. It's easy with Kearney Trust Company. The world has become fast-paced, and we understand that you are busy. That's why we offer a banking experience that's as simple and stress-free as can be. Kearney Trust goes beyond convenient locations and good customer care to offer banking services that make managing your finances quicker and easier than ever before. Online, bill pay, e-statements, and mobile banking are available to give you a positive banking experience so you can get back to your life and activities. Kearney Trust also provides capital to people and businesses so they can achieve their goals. Whether you know exactly what you want or just need someone to talk to about your dream, you can speak with them and work on that dream. You may just be getting off the ground or ready to move into your brick and mortar building. Kearney Trust will provide you and your business with the resources you need to succeed. Kearney Trust Company is your partner for success with 2 convenient locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
To Kearney Live, for those of you joining us on 102.7 FM, and also those of you joining us on KMO-TV, all around Kearney and all around the world, for that matter. We're here with Sheriff Will Akin, the Clay County Sheriff's Department. But before we go into this whole defund the police thing, which I know I want to give people to get back from their lunch and whatnot before we start that. One of the things that came up last week when Jerry Nolte was talking at the chamber meeting was that with this new commission, there's a new relationship. I don't want to say new, but a reformed relationship with the sheriff's department. How's that working out now with this new commission? And because we had all those lawsuits and everything that was going on about a year, I guess it would have been about a year ago or so. What's it like to work with this new commission?
It's amazing. I mean, in one word to describe it, it's amazing. You know, for the sheriff's office for the last 6 years was the punching bag of Clay County. And with this new commission that's coming in, you know, I've worked with them for the last few years and in different aspects and keeping them informed of what's going on internally, because, you know, the sheriff's office, we have a lot of opinion, but we're not always going to speak it out because for whatever reason, people will agree and disagree, and it's just not a hill that I'm willing to die on. But with these particular commissioners, I've always kept them abreast of what is happening internally. And now they've come into their new roles and they understand what's going on in the sheriff's office. So it's not just, okay, all that was happening, but now we want to learn about it. Why was that happening? When, you know, we've been keeping them informed. And so now whenever, I'll use this as an example. A couple weeks ago, I met with all the commissioners separately, of course, because of Sunshine. And I got the feeling like they were like, okay, well, what's going on? What do you need? And I had to quickly, you know, put it out there and just say, hey, it's not that I need something. I just want to let you know what's going on at the sheriff's office. Because in the over 8 years that I've been there, we've never had a good, solid working relationship with the commission that would ever give me the idea to just go up there and have a conversation, just sit down and have a cup of coffee and say, hey, great things are happening in the sheriff's office right now. And it's because of you. You know, I've said many times it's because of this commission that we're able to do the things that we're doing and going through this transformation even internally. And I mentioned transformation earlier, but this transition is going to take about a year, but we're restructuring the entire sheriff's office because the way we were doing things, okay, they worked for us then, but we have different dynamics now. And we're going to change that to meet those dynamics so that we can continue pushing forward instead of just trying to keep up. But working with this commission has just been simply amazing. And
I want to say thank you to Mike and Brian and you for not correcting me when I made 3 mistakes coming out of break right in the section. I called it the sheriff department about 3 times. It's the sheriff's office. I apologize.
You know,
that's my mistake for the year.
In most cases, if you don't sort of point out your own mistakes, people will miss them. Our listener would miss that.
Well, here's the thing.
I don't think you need to do that.
I messed up with the Royals. I admit it. And then I called it the sheriff's department. And again, I'm on a roll.
It's all
Wait
good.
till football season starts. Okay, so the big issue or the biggest question, I think, it's not even a question, the biggest topic right now is this whole thing of defund the police, which honestly is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of, but be that as it may. And I'd like to know, or I'd like to say that I know where it got started, but it's one of those things that I think someone blurted it out, it picked up steam, but no one really thought it through.
I know.
And so here we are, and well, I know where too,
yep.
But so here we are, and 2 or 3 cities tried it, and it failed miserably. And so what I'd like to, I don't want to go through the rehash the thing that everybody's talked about. I want to talk a little bit about the behind-the-scenes stuff that no one thinks of when you say defund the police department. One of them is, as you and I both know, when you have an established police department with a good relationship and all that sort of thing, that's one thing. When you let things go out of control, getting it back is so much harder, especially now you have people leaving police departments in huge numbers. You're going to have, well, you already are seeing it, significantly higher crime rates, sometimes by, 900% or some weird thing like that. But you also have fewer people that want to do the job. The question is going to be how long before it's going to take forever to recover from this. It's
going to take forever. I would say that we're always going to try to keep our head above water. I honestly don't think that we're going to be able to keep up. You know, when I was running my campaign, or during the campaign, I talked about the staffing levels of the Clay County Sheriff's Office being basically what it was for the last 27 years. Part of that restructure is growing the sheriff's office, but how do we do that when today's climate is calling for defunding of the police, but then also when I have 18 vacancies and I've got 4 applications?
Oh, man.
19 years ago, there were approximately 600 applicants for about 80 and 90 positions. And fortunately, I was one of the lucky ones to get selected, but we don't have that anymore. So as people continue to retire, and even at the Clay County Sheriff's Office, we have people retiring, but we don't have people applying to work in those positions.
Now, there was a pay discrepancy before you were elected.
Yes.
That's been corrected since then, right?
We are well on our way of correcting it, but
okay.
That's another factor in this.
Mm-hmm.
So our starting salary was $36,400 roughly,
Mm-hmm.
and no one wants to be in law enforcement for that pay.
Yeah, good grief.
It was
That's crazy.
Yeah, especially when our neighboring county was paying almost $10,000 more starting, and then recently another city just came out and said they're going to start their officers off at $50,000 starting pay.
And that's a much smaller city.
Yes.
Much smaller. So, yeah. And I think what's going to happen, honestly, a couple of things. Number one, the job is one of those things most people are like, I wouldn't want to do that.
Right.
And I can tell you, I don't want to go back and do it. No offense. But to your point, too, when I joined back in 1989, yeah, I'm older. I get it. But there were 500 applicants for 25 positions.
Right.
And I've talked to some people that are on the department now. This is Kansas City. They have the number of applicants they have that are truly qualified is not even close to touching what they're going to need to replenish the retirements and everybody that's leaving right now.
Yeah, when you say truly qualified, what does that mean exactly?
Well, so here's the other sad part too. In Kansas City, they are dropping a lot of the things that are requirements for. So when I went on, I mean, you couldn't have a DUI, you couldn't have a felony, you couldn't have this, you couldn't have that, and you had to have a 2-year degree, I think, and then it went up to a 4-year for a little bit, I think, and then now it's they're starting. It's not quite this bad, but it's close. They'll bring out a mirror and say, okay, if you can fog this mirror. The problem is this: when you lower your requirements for a police officer, that's when your problems start. Because when you get into that's what we had to do to get away from the corruption of the 50s and 60s, because your standards were so low. So we increased our standards. If we drop our standards back, we're going to end up right in the same problem. You end up with people that are actually stealing and all that sort of thing going on.
Right.
You want higher standards and you want higher pay because it prevents a lot of that. Because the risk you would take to do something wrong outweighs the career. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's one thing to overcome. But the other thing is, so we talk about defunding the police department. Kansas City is the biggest one around here that's marched up to do that. But for those of you who live in Liberty, Gladstone, Clay County, all that sort of thing, and you think, well, it doesn't affect me, that's wrong. Explain why that is wrong.
Oh, gosh, that's the biggest concern that I have. People think about what's happening in Kansas City only affects the 90 square miles of Kansas City within Clay County, but you have to look at it from a factor of resonation. Right. So when Kansas City officers are blacked out because they have to go south of the river to help answer calls down there, who's going to answer the calls for help up here in the Northland in Clay County? The sheriff's office. We can go and we can help them out. But what happens when our area, we are blacked out because we're helping Kansas City? Then we're going to have to call for Liberty, Excelsior Springs, Smithville, Kearney. What happens when they're blacked out? I mean, they're shorthanded too. And that's going to happen very quickly. So yes, it's happening in Kansas City, but it resonates across the entire Northland because when, let's say here in Kearney, if you call 911, you expect Kearney Police Department to come and help you. What happens when they're helping the Clay County Sheriff's Office because the Clay County Sheriff's Office is helping Kansas City? That's what we have to start thinking about. It's not just Kansas City. It's going to have a resonating effect throughout the entire Northland.
Yeah, and just to be clear for people who don't know, so a lot of these counties, cities, and all have what's called mutual aid agreements.
Mutual aid,
and those agreements were designed to help out other agencies, but it was actually originally designed in reverse. And by that I mean smaller agencies like like Kearney and Smithville don't have the resources sometimes if something big happens. So mutual aid was designed so bigger departments like Kansas City, Highway Patrol, Sheriff's Office.
Great job.
Do you like the way I recovered there? Sheriff's Office are able to come in and help those smaller cities. It really wasn't designed to work in reverse, but that's exactly what's going on now. And it's, in my opinion, the way it's going is unsustainable. It's something is going to happen because the Northland, a large amount of the population of Kansas City is north of the river. However, the amount of resources, fire, EMS, and police are all south of the river. The largest amount of resources go down there. It's not adequate. It's not equal to the funding. That's a whole nother issue. But you just can't rely on the sheriff's office in Kearney and Smithville to pick up your slack. If you're Kansas City, I don't think. It's not sustainable. And you guys can't help the people that you're supposed to be helping.
Right.
Like Kearney residents, Smithville residents.
Yep. And, you know, and that's why it's a resonating effect. We go back to applicants and how many people want to be in law enforcement. Well, we're not getting those applicants, so how are we going to sustain even our own operations?
Right.
And, you know, it forces us all to be in the same group. I mean, we have to be there for each other because we don't have the resources that are going to allow us to continue daily operations. I mean, you know, even working with the commission, we're well on our way to mitigating the salary disparity. But even if they give me 20 more positions, I'm dreaming. I just want to throw that out. 20 more positions. Who wants to work for the Clay County Sheriff's Office? Yeah. You know, and I want to point out that even though that city has a $50,000 pay starting, they're still hurting for people. So we know it's not the money. It's what's happening on media, social media, the things that people are watching and going, oh my gosh, why the heck would I want to be a cop these days? Mm-hmm. And that forces us to be in the situation that we're in.
Hey, Will, I'm looking at the KMO-Sheriff.org website. This is the Clay County, Missouri Sheriff Office website here. On the index page, there's a listing of available victim services. And it's everything from Missouri Child Abuse Hotline to Missouri Coalition Against Domestic Violence. It goes on and on. Missouri Elder Abuse Hotline. Now, these are clearly not organizations that are funded by, you know, these aren't Clay County sheriffs.
Those are our partners.
Oh, okay,
yep.
Exactly. What is the impact of these kinds of numbers that, you know, you're looking at National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Missouri Victim Assistance Network, all of these things, Missouri Office for Victims of Crime. How are these organizations, these partners, impacted by defunding the police?
Caseload. There's many different ways, and I can't even begin to speak for them, but let's just talk about caseload. Every call that we go to generates a case, and eventually it will end up with one of our partnering agencies. So it's going to have, again, a resonating effect even outside of Clay County because those are our partners. And when we're trying to help people to get them services because they're victimized, we reach out to them. And if they don't have the people, because let's just face it, they're underpaid as well.
Sure.
And, you know, and then that caseload starts building up and then people start getting frustrated because my case isn't being worked on and I'm not getting results fast enough. And then we have to explain to them, we just don't have the resources.
Right. So bottom line is these victim advocacy groups are clearly impacted and they're going to be, it all runs downhill. And this is, I think, the sort of thing that people need to be aware of when you start, you know, throwing around a notion like defunding a law enforcement organization. I think that's it's nonsense to begin with. And maybe I'm naive, but I believe most people realize it's just a bad idea.
You know, absolutely. I mean, I don't understand why people think that is a good idea because defunding means if you're pulling resources from us and we can barely do the job as it is, how do you think we're going to respond to violent crimes? And people kind of point the fingers at law enforcement that it's our responsibility to prevent crime. We're the ones who have to be held accountable for, let's face it, a very small percentage of what bad cops do, right? If we don't have the people, then, we're not going to be able to stop it. We're a reactive agency.
That's the thing. There are bad people in every profession known to.
Yes.
There just are. That's just the way it is. There's bad trash truck drivers. There's bad computer programmers. There's bad politicians. Yeah, I said it. But there's just a lot of them out there. The other thing that you have to realize, and this is where, so you talk about ambulance EMS people. There are certain calls that the EMS people cannot go into until the police get there. If you have a family member or a loved one that needs emergency medical to come in and they have to sit around and wait because there's no police available, people don't understand that, I don't think. They don't realize that this goes far deeper than, I think a lot of them honestly think, well, I won't get a traffic ticket or some silly thing like that. This goes well beyond that. And I think, sadly, I think people are going to start to realize, well, they already are. Up north. They're going to realize really quick the implications this has goes far beyond what you think it does.
Instead of defunding the police, how about we work with police, right? I mean, really, let's stop with the whole power play. Let's stop with political agendas and start working with law enforcement. The Clay County Sheriff's Office, I ran on a campaign, a platform of transparency, and I invite people every chance I get. I invite people to come in and have a conversation with me. Let me give you a tour of the Sheriff's Office. Let me explain to you how we're spending the little amount of money that we do have that the Commission has been grateful enough to find for us to do this, and the job scope of what we're actually working on. But I just want to touch on something real quick. Fire EMS, they want to help people just as much, but they don't have the equipment to spare their lives to make them go into a hot scene when it's not safe. And so they're going to wait. Yeah. The only time that I've ever seen fire EMS or EMS personnel go into a scene is in the first year of my law enforcement career, where we had 2 officers shot and killed. And they were told to stay out, but they went against their own orders to get our officers. But if it's just a loved one from a community member, you have to keep that in mind. They're going to wait until the scene's safe.
Yeah, I've actually seen that before, and I've seen them. They'll go in when they're not supposed to, like if one of their own's in trouble.
Absolutely,
I've absolutely seen that. But the other thing, and then we'll let it go. It's kind of interesting, the disconnect too with the public. So this guy wrote an article, I think it was in the Star, an opinion piece or something like that. And he said, it would be better if the police department did these things. And he listed out like 10 things. Right. Here's the funny part. All these people got on social media, your social media warriors, and they're like, yeah, it's a great idea, this blah, blah, blah. Every single thing on his list, the police department already does.
Yeah,
every single thing. So become more informed, I think, is number one. But
smarten up.
All I have to say about that.
Yes.
That's all I have to say about that.
We've got Sheriff Will Akin with us today on Kearney Live. We're going to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Say thank you to these local businesses who support KPGZ.
Simplify your banking, simplify your life. It's easy with Kearney Trust Company. The world has become fast-paced, and we understand that you are busy. That's why we offer a banking experience that's as simple and stress-free as can be. Kearney Trust goes beyond convenient locations and good customer care to offer banking services that make managing your finances quicker and easier than ever before. Online, bill pay, e-statements, and mobile banking are available to give you a positive banking experience so you can get back to your life and activities. Kearney Trust also provides capital to people and businesses so they can achieve their goals. Whether you know exactly what you want or just need someone to talk to about your dream, you can speak with them and work on that dream. You may just be getting off the ground or ready to move into your brick and mortar building. Kearney Trust will provide you and your business with the resources you need to succeed. Kearney Trust Company is your partner for success with 2 convenient locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to Kearney Live. There it is. Welcome back to Kearney Live. I know you were here anyway, and I don't have to tell you that. You're listening to the most popular radio program in Kearney, Missouri. We know that for a fact. Isn't that right, Sheriff?
That's right.
We prove
That's
it.
why I keep coming back.
Right, and we have the data. We truly do. We can go to the our website, and which, by the way, is 1027KMO.com. Go there and find out all kinds of things. You might not find all the information that you find on claymosheriff.org, specific to the Clay County Sheriff Office. But one thing we do have is we have a connection with one Will Akin. And yes, right, Dr. Akin, by the way. Yes, let's get that in there because it's not an honorary title. You worked for that. You earned it.
I did.
Yes, you did. Off the air, just briefly, we were talking about this the sort of buzzword, this re-envisioning police work, which is, I think it's one of those things that it's a narrative. It's a buzzword that captures a narrative that really doesn't say anything, but people start to use it. It's bandied about, and for one thing, re-envisioning police work by folks who have never worked in police work seems a little dangerous to me. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, because if you talk about re-envisioning police, the word re-envision,
right?
What does that mean?
Exactly.
You know, I've been in law enforcement for almost 19 years. I'm still learning myself on what law enforcement's all about, especially in my new role. But it's dangerous when people who have no idea what law enforcement is about starting to talk about what we should be. That's when it gets dangerous, because when people are loud like that, people start listening, it gains momentum, and then, oh my gosh, all police departments across the United States has to re-envision the way they do work. Well, it really, if you boil it down, someone commits a crime, we find them, we arrest them, and then we put them in the judicial system.
Seems pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, how we do that,
right.
And
I was going to say, the funny part is when you read these comments, which is very painful to do, 90%, well, not 90, but a large portion of them, you're like, okay, you can't do that. That's illegal, or that violates someone. You know, they want to do certain things when it fits for them, but you're like, well, why didn't you just kick down the door? Well, you can't just kick down the door. Or my favorite, and they said this on a major, I won't say the name, but I think you get a view of what I'm trying to say here. They said shoot in the air. Now, come on. Don't we every year before the new year,
4th of July, New Year's
we
Eve,
say don't shoot in the air, and then this person says, why didn't they just shoot in the air?
Oh, good grief.
The problem is that misunderstanding. People think you can just do whatever. That it doesn't work that way. And then the other thing about let's send social workers, actually we've already tried that, and it failed miserably, and we ended up getting a few killed. So that doesn't work. So by law means, let's try that again.
Well, I tell you what, speaking about social worker, I'm able to talk about this now because working with our organizational partners, Tri-County Mental Health, we're actually going to hire a full-time social worker dedicated to the Clay County Sheriff's Office. But they're not going to be responders. They're going to be help doing follow-up, making sure that people get the resources that they need to get out of the situations that they're in, and also to address our recidivism rates in our jail facility. Because if you think about it, we have people in our facility that are members of our community who go through the rotating door. They get released, they come back in. It's because they don't know of any resources. So that social worker is going to be there to help us identify, find out what resources they need, and then give them a chance when they go out, because I don't want people to come back into my facility and, just 1 month after another because they don't know how to get the help that they need. And so having that social worker is going to be great. And working with Tri-County Mental Health, our CIT deputies, our deputies in general, but then also how about being there for our own employees if we need some help?
Hey, Will, on the same website I referenced earlier, KMO-sheriff.org, there is a ride-along request form, a link for that. Years ago, I did a ride-along with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and it was fascinating. Do you get any of those requests anymore?
We're getting more and more now.
Really?
Oh, absolutely, because that is the one thing that I can do is offer to the citizens of Clay County, the residents of Clay County, is come on, do a ride-along with us. Let us show you what our day is like. You know what? Oftentimes they're like, "Oh, that was kind of boring." You know, I hear about all this stuff that's happening, and all we did was answer a few calls, and then we kind of ate at McDonald's, and then kind of went over here and spent 3 hours doing a report on a burglary, and you know. But then there's that small percentage. Whoa, we had to run code lights and sirens from Missouri City all the way up to Holt because it takes 25 minutes to get up there in rush hour traffic. So there's a spectrum, but having a ride-along program gives the community an opportunity to come into our world and see what it is we actually do. And, man, how about transparency for that?
Exactly right. Well, what are the qualifications? What do you have to do to make this happen? You just click on this for the ride-along request form, and then what happens?
Fill it out.
Sign a waiver.
Sign a waiver, definitely. We don't want to put anybody in harm's way,
Right.
but if you're doing a ride-along with us, you have to understand that if people are shooting at us or at someone, that's what we're going toward. So they have to understand that. But of course, we say, hey, stay in the car, don't get out for any reason. But offering that opportunity for people to come and do the ride along, it's people are just like, really? I've always wanted to do that, but I didn't know. Well, all you have to do is submit that form. We do a background check, make sure you don't have any warrants or anything like that, or we still have to follow federal guidelines when it comes to the information that comes across our computer. So you can't be a felon or have a felony or anything like that. So we just do that background check, then we set up a date and time, and come on, let's do it.
Right. Now, we talk about numbers and personnel at Clay County Sheriff's Office, and if I'm not mistaken, the Clay County, the park rangers now, they come under the management then of the sheriff's office. Is that correct?
So almost. They're lake deputies now.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we absorbed the park rangers about 3 months ago, and that is because there were 2 law enforcement organizations under Clay County government, and we wanted to streamline practices. Because before, the park rangers were actually under the management of a civilian. Well, especially a civilian who is an administrator.
Yeah, re-envisioning police work.
Right. So, having conversations with the commission, and we all came to an agreement on what that was going to look like, and we absorbed them. We put them through a training program, just like we put new deputies through, to ensure that they know how to operate our records management system, our CAD system, and just the practices and policies of the Clay County Sheriff's Office. And they're doing great. I think we have one lake deputy left that is still in training, but I'll just put it out here as an example. Before, the park rangers were limited to areas within the Clay County parks, the lake area. So if there was a crime that happened in the Smithville area, they couldn't respond to that because they were limited to the boundaries of their jurisdiction. Well, now that they're lake deputies, they have my commission for them, and they can go anywhere around the lake. How about that for service?
Do they have a boat?
We have 3 boats.
Nice.
Now, I will say, I did not want to have any of the boats.
Can we do a ride along in the boat?
We actually deployed the boats to help people who are stranded on the lake. And so we're not actively patrolling the lake because that's still the jurisdiction of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, Water Patrol.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's still their jurisdiction, but we do have the boats in case we have to respond in an emergency to help somebody who's capsized or got stuck on a tree stump or something.
What kind of boat?
Oh gosh, I couldn't begin to tell you. A fast one, a slow one, a rowboat.
I didn't know if it was like a canoe or a little John boat or something.
Row faster! Row faster!
But I will say the lake deputies or those deputies who are assigned to that unit, they have to get trained to operate the watercrafts. But they also get additional training too. They go through swift water rescue, in the event that somebody, for whatever reason, thinks it's a really good idea to go out there during flood season. and they kind of, get themselves into a situation, we have to be prepared for that, because ultimately the number one priority is life safety.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Did you notice the way you and I called them boats and he called them a watercraft? Nice. I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh, man, I do too. What else is going on over there? When you show up for work in the morning, what's the first thing you do?
Oh, man.
Get coffee.
Get coffee. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly,
Got to get
right.
the morning started off right.
First coffee.
That's right. Oddly enough, I didn't start drinking coffee until I was 41. That was 4 years ago.
What was the
So
shift?
your life was pretty miserable.
Yeah. And then you found out all of a sudden work wasn't as hard.
Right?
And you could do more of it.
No, one of the things that I like to do, and I hope to get to do more of it, is when I get to work, I like seeing the employees who are actually doing the job. Walking around, knowing what's actually happening in the different areas of the sheriff's office. Of course, yes, I have phone calls and emails and personnel issues that I have to deal with, but that stuff I try to push to the side because we talked about the shortages of staffing, the problems that we're having, answer even the calls that we have. Being able to let them know, hey, you're doing a great job. What else can we do to make your job just a little easier so that way you continue to come back to work? And I also learn more about the raw data, if you will, of what's happening. They might send it up through their chain of command, but how many times does an issue transform into something else by the time it gets to me?
Yes.
And my commanders, and I'll say this, commanders do a phenomenal job. I mean, we have a great team of command staff and employees, but I like walking around and knowing what's actually happening with the groups that are actually doing the job. And then I reluctantly go to my office and sit behind my desk and start checking my emails.
Fire up the old desk.
You did do something else, if I'm not mistaken, because I think I saw a picture of you at National Donut Day.
Wait a minute.
And the only thing that I was mad about was that I wasn't there.
Man, I tell you. Did you read the caption on Facebook that
yes,
I put?
I read the caption on Facebook, and I was upset. But anyway, if somebody is interested in getting being a sheriff's deputy, what kind of, I know they can go to the website and all that, but what kind of requirements are you looking at? Just if someone's sitting out there going, I might want to try that.
Yeah, one of the things that people think is I'm too old. And we don't have an age requirement. As long as you can fill out an application and you have maybe some training, I will say life experience goes a long way. Just because you have a degree from an esteemed university or something like that doesn't mean that you're going to be a better police officer. Life experience goes a long way. I didn't get into law enforcement until I was 27. So I had a little bit of life experience after the military. But fill out the application and really, truly have an interest in law enforcement and not a curiosity. And the reason why I differentiate curiosity from having a true interest is because curiosity wears off. And once you get bored with it, because remember, we spent a lot of time behind a desk, doing reports or checking emails and very little time chasing bad guys and catching bad guys. So if it's curiosity, be curious a little longer until you know that that's really what you want to do. And then just apply. And then we go through a hiring process.
You have to be able to run a 50-yard dash in under 1 minute. Is that right?
I hope you can run a 50-yard dash in under 1 minute.
I'm not sure I could right this moment.
Can we practice?
Sure.
It's that whole physical training aspect, I think, that frightens older guys.
It does, but we do have a standard, and it's
that's
just
the
to make
problem.
sure.
I'm out. There we go.
It's running, it's push-ups, it's sit-ups, but just to make sure that you have the basic. I mean, we're not looking for elite athletes to try to become a member of our organization. We just want to make sure that if you're going from a patrol car into a foot pursuit, that you don't end up being a statistic on the officer down memorial page. Officer dies 50 feet from patrol car because they were chasing a suspect. Those are the kind of things that really worry about me. Now, we have technology that kind of addresses, if you can't run a 50-yard dash in under 1 minute, we've got radios. And we have a lot of people coming, because when I talk about, we work together. If something happens near Liberty, you think Liberty is going to go, I can't stand, I can't cross the line of my jurisdiction. No, they're going to be there for us. And likewise, we're going to be there for them. but we just need to make sure that you can actually run a little bit and do some push-ups and sit-ups because of the demands of the job.
Right.
I was going to say, before anybody writes letters and emails, the 50-yard dash in a minute, that's a joke. These are called jokey jokes, okay? Just
unfortunate. You have to explain that. But
I can just see it
let
now.
me just tell you.
Someone's going to go, you mean I only have to? No.
Here it is, Jim. Just blanket statement. This show is a joke. Just
Oh
so
my
you
gosh.
know.
I wouldn't say it quite
well,
like that.
I mean, you know what I mean. Oh, Brian, I heard his feelers.
Yeah, you
I heard his feelers. There it is. I know. No, it's a great show. Kearney Live, that's what you've been listening to, and you've been listening to Will Akin. He's the sheriff of Clay County. Next week, we've got Representative Josh Hurlbert. He will be in studio with us, and Jim might be back. I know that is possible, right? I don't know, but he's not that dependable anymore. That's the way this whole deal works. Sheriff Akin, thank you very much for being with us, and come back anytime, would you?
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Love being here with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You come back and see us next week with Josh Hurlbert. It'll be that. It was easy for me to say. It'll be a great time. We'll do more of the same. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next week.